Right now, the investigation is, I think, close to being completed, and I hope that we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible.
All right, joining me now is Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley from Oregon. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. Were you surprised that the man overseeing the Mueller investigation made those public comments yesterday?
Yes, I was surprised. I'm not sure if he was citing from some recognition or knowledge, or it was just wishful thinking. The challenge we've had is that there's been so much bad conduct that every time they extend their investigation, they discover more leads. And so now we're up to 34 individuals indicted. And now with Roger Stone, what more evidence might lead elsewhere?
I think we have to assume he knew what he was talking about there, not just based on public record, because he said he'd been fully briefed on the investigation. He also said that decisions that Mueller has made are going to be reviewed. What do you think he means by that?
Well, he's been very clear that the report passes through him before it comes to Congress. He would decide, or that certainly the person in his role would decide what gets to Congress. This is why we're so concerned, and it's why Senator Blumenthal and Senator Grassley introduced a bill that said, no, Congress needs to see the Mueller report in its entirety.
You are supportive of that bill, I imagine. Do you think it has any chance of getting through the Senate? It's really up to Mitch McConnell if it gets to the Senate floor and gets voted on. Do you have any indication that he'll let this happen?
I know that there are a good number of Republican senators who support the idea, but whether Mitch McConnell allows it to be considered, that is a big question. Right now, I think the answer is probably not. And yet, really, justice, the rule of law in our country demands that Congress see the work unfiltered, particularly when we have a nominee coming forward right now who has made it very clear, Barr, that he dislikes the Mueller investigation, thinks it's illegitimate, and would have control over whether or not Congress gets that report.
His argument on releasing the full report, though, is that it's not Justice Department policy to explain to the public declinations. In other words, why they would decline to prosecute someone. He's also been critical of how James Comey handled his initial release about the Hillary Clinton investigation, saying if you're not going to charge someone, you don't spend a news conference explaining how bad the actions they took were. So that's his explanation. You don't think that holds water?
Well, I tell you, I don't trust his judgment. The fact that Barr put forward a memo basically applying for the position of Attorney General by criticizing the Mueller investigation really worries me about putting this fully into his hands.
I do want to ask you about one of the arguments that's been made since Roger Stone was charged on Friday. People have said, look, there are no charges of conspiracy, no collusion-like charges there. If, when the Mueller report comes out, there are no charges along those lines, do you think it will have done its job?
Well, its job is to get to the truth. And so I do feel Mueller is of the utmost professional conduct. He has the right experience to bring to bear. And assuming that we get the report in the full shape that it is delivered to the Attorney General, I will feel he has done his job.
In these other crimes that have been charged, obstruction of justice, perjury, and whatnot, are referred to, again, by supporters of the president often as process crimes. Is that a legitimate argument, that those don't get to the central argument here, which is, was there collusion?
Well, I think we haven't seen the Mueller report yet, and we haven't seen what final pieces he may bring to bear, that he may be waiting to deliver those at the end of his investigation. Are process crimes different? Yes, they are by definition, but certainly perjury, certainly obstruction of justice are very grave mistakes or crimes in our system, and essential that we hold people accountable for making them.
Some of your colleagues on the Appropriations Committee are part of this team of 17 legislators trying to hammer out some kind of a deal in the next, I guess, 14 days. That was the agreement that was reached as the government was reopened. Do you want to see, as part of that agreement, any provision for new funding for new barriers between the United States and Mexico?
I am comfortable with barriers that involve vehicles, fences. There are appropriate places where border guards have convinced me that some additional barriers could be useful. But what I hear when you separate the border guards from their superiors, what they say is, look, What we need are sensors to determine if somebody's approaching the border, and we need more personnel to be able to respond quickly to intercept them. That those are the key two things. There's nothing magical about a third wall, and in fact, that has become now a symbol, really a symbol of this administration's policies, and it's a racist symbol.
Well, the president has backed off. Maybe he had to back off the notion of a wall from sea to shining sea. But if I just listen to your answer, if I understood it correctly, you did say that you do think that some new wall or new barrier in some places would be okay, and you'd be willing to vote for new funding for that?
Nothing that I would call a wall am I willing to vote for. I've seen some of the border fences. They're chain link. You can see through them. They slow people down in combination with sensors. People can respond. But anything that is like this vast kind of massive wall that extends 30 feet into the air, whether it's steel slats, whether it's concrete, no, absolutely not.